Hey there guys, and welcome to this brand new Legends of Runeterra gameplay. I'm your host, Kingdom Freak, and we're going to be doing a trial run of Expedition mode. I've had a fair amount of experience, not only in the beta preview, we've also got a couple of different experiences with this new patch in the open beta. I've played five trials on the open beta. And I think out of those 5, I've only gotten 7 wins twice. So I have a fairly decent idea on how this game mode works. It's similar to how Hearthstone does its selection process, but does it in a different way, and does it a similar way to how Shadowverse does it. What the Hearthstone way of doing it is having 3 different selections, and you take a card out of that option pool, whereas what Shadowverse does is that you have 2 different selections, but you have multiple cards that you can choose from. Now, there's a little bit of a mixture between... Now, that mixture can actually be good, it can be bad for you, but generally, it's the skill of this mode is to be able to play the best cards that you could possibly play with taking up some bad cards and taking up some good cards at the same time. So what we're going to do is go through and show you what the strengths and weaknesses, what you need to look for in a new expedition run. Now, the first thing that I'm going to say as we begin this trial is not all factions work really well together. There are some factions that are weaker than others. Zorn is one of them, and I'm just having a look through at this moment. I'm actually doing this after that I've done the trial draft. But there are a couple of different weaknesses with a couple of different factions, and there are definitely some stronger factions than others. 2 strong factions are Demacia and Freljorn. And if you get a Demacia Freljorn deck, you're practically guaranteed to get 5 wins, or be in the higher tiers of those winning categories. A couple of decks that don't, a couple of different card selections, a couple of different factions are very niche. Zorn and Piltover is one of them, and they have very specific cards that really work well with that type of class. Like, you've got specialized cards like Ezreal, you've got Heimerdinger, you've got Teemo, and you've got those types of characters work well in very specific decks, and they play a lot differently to how other decks play. And there are just some really good cards in other places. So I was actually explaining that Teemo, I'm not actually going to be using Teemo, and I don't like Lucian's card because it can be a little bit of a high variance card. So I picked Zed's stack because they actually have a lot more better cards. And now the first champion pick is a little bit of a definition of what the deck is, but the second champion pick shows you what you are needing to do in terms of your game plan. So as an example, Vladimir and Callista are the 2 choices here. Callista for being one that actually we're going to be summoning a lot of cards, and Callista's going to see them die consistently because of the ephemeral mechanic. And the ephemeral mechanic works really well with Ionia and Shadow Eyes. So I actually think that could have been a better pick, but I end up picking Vladimir because I see Vladimir as a stronger card because I'm looking at it and I'm going attack and deal 1 damage to all enemies, for every other attacking ally, I deal an additional deal 1 damage to them, and deal 1 damage to the nexus for each ally. So that's actually really, really good. That can be really good for later on, and it can actually be used as a couple of different setup plays for next time. Plus, Ionia and Noxus work very well together in general, and there's just a lot of really good static cards in Noxus, and like Crimson Awakener and Crimson Aristocrat are really good cards. Like, and either Afterlife or Battle Scars would actually be a really good pick here, because not only stats, but the champions synergize really well, and the cards work really well together as well. But Shadow Isles doesn't necessarily have all the cards that Ionia needs. Shadowverse can actually... God damn it, I keep on saying Shadowverse, not Shadow Isles. Shadow Isles doesn't really... It has a lot of, like, tiny spells, but Zed doesn't really benefit off of tiny spells. He'd benefit off of a lot of let's deal as much damage as possible type of cards. Now, I'm actually having a look, and I'm actually having a little bit of a tough decision on whether or not Disruption or Battle Scars is the best option. I actually don't take Shadows and Dust into consideration at all, for 2 different reasons. One, a lot of the cards that are there don't really do well with Vladimir, and Crimson Awakener really hurts them as well. So it's actually two birds that just get killed by a bunch of rocks. But Crimson Disciple and Crimson Aristocrat work really well with the game plan. Even though Inspiring Mentor could be a fairly good card, Legion Drama could also be a good card, Battle Scars is the better pick here. Now, here's an interesting thing. There are 2 different choices here. There is the Noxian Might and the Enlightenment. The Noxian Might could be used as a good way to push further a certain game plan, and Reckless Tefarian, I'm going to hit this no matter what, I'm going to just attack every single time. But the possibility of Freljord cards is way too good, and Freljord cards work really well with specifically Vladimir, and that's what my mind is going through. And Avaros and Trapper works really well with every card in this deck. Like, I can actually probably, if I get a couple of draw cards, I could probably play Zed with a couple of these Yetis, and what are you going to take precedence over, the Yetis or the Zed? And that's a very big question, unfortunately. And either Zed's leveling up, or your opponent's taking a lot of damage. I don't consider Arachnophilia for 2 different reasons. Blaze Edge can actually work can work really well, but I don't see a reason for it. And Harsh Winds is just way too good of a card, unfortunately. And Avaros and Trapper works really well with the deck anyway. So I'm actually having a look at it and I'm going, okay, it could be anything to do with this. It's just a bunch of stats versus everything. So now we've actually got 2 different choices here, Enlightenment and Battle Scars, but I choose Battle Scars because it just works really well. You also get a little bit of a heal, and it allows me to put stats on the board very quickly, and if I need the heal, I'll be able to heal up. And now this one is a little bit of a different. I'm not actually going to be looking at Scrap Heap at all, because 1-drop cards aren't really that great late game, and not only that, like, there are much better 3-drop cards anyway. Suit Up is actually one of those selections that I'm actually having a very big think about. And the reason why is because Brittle Steel is really good, and Scarthane Stefan works really well with all the Vladimir Noxus cards. I could go Yone, Chase Win, and Greenglade Elder, but what I see that as a problem is that Greenglade Elder is a 3-drop that has 1/1 worth of stats. It's not that great. Even though I do have a lot of units, I don't see that being a great card. Yeah, I'm just explaining on what I was actually explaining on what why I was actually choosing that specific card. Okay, so this was actually a fairly decent toss-up between Shadows and Dust and Enlightenment, which is the middle pick and the right pick. I actually end up picking Enlightenment for 2 different reasons: Avaros and Trapper, and like Lifesteal. That opportunity of having a lot of really good cards later on is just way too good. But Keeper of Masks and Shadow Assassin. Oh, actually, I might actually end up picking up Shadow Assassin because draw is actually always really good in the game. I'm actually a little bit fuzzy on this pick because this one's actually a little bit of a grey area because you can actually pick either one. But I think the draw card is actually way too good here in comparison. Plus, I think I need a couple more 2-drops, and having too many 3-drops can actually be a little bit of a detriment. But still, you can actually have a choice of having Enlightenment or Shadows and Dust. Realistically, it would be your choice in this situation, but I think I prefer the card draw over the... I think I would prefer the card draw over the... I think I'm thinking about the card draw now. Yeah, I think I'm thinking about the card draw and I'm going, okay, this actually works really well, this deck. Plus Keeper of Masks works really well. Yeah. And all of the wild picks, you want to try and pick up the best cards possible because it's... Unfortunately, the wild cards can be very high variance. Avaros and Sentry, Iceborne Legacy, I just went, no, that's not the cards. Those are the cards that I'm not actually looking for. Now, this is actually going to be a very interesting question. This is probably the thing that defines the deck. I end up picking up Suit Up, but you can pick up Disruption for more late game. Now, the only reason why I don't pick up Disruption is because the 5/4 worth of stats does not really work out that well for me, and I would prefer the Sustain just in case Vladimir is killing something, and I can go, okay, there you go. Or if something's attacking me with low health, I go, okay, Brutal Steel. And it becomes a very, very, very hard thing that people don't want to... Like, Frostbite, I think, is probably one of the most stupid mechanics in this game and is one of the hardest things to balance out in this game. So, yeah, I think I end up picking up Brittle Steel here. Suit Up here. Yeah. Even, I actually do discuss that stats actually do also matter as well. But I actually end up picking Suit Up because of just because I didn't want to go too late game focused. And I actually have 2 really good sets here. I have Suit Up, which allows me to get +1/+1 from Avaros and Heart, and Mighty Poro, or Scar Maiden Reaver and Whirling Death. And I choose Scar Maiden Reaver and Whirling Death because those 2 cards, I think in terms of the deck, work really well together. And Whirling Death is just one of those cards that just can absolutely obliterate some smaller game decks as well. And you can choose to pick off certain cards as well. You can go, okay, I'm attacking you. Bang, you're dead. And you have no consequences for it. It's a better version of... what is it? I think it's Fighting Spirit, I think. Fighting Spirit, I think. I think it's 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 Fighting Spirit, I I think... I don't know which one it is. It's the Dysmarcian 2-drop that allows you to hit something else. That allows 2 units to battle. So I actually pick up Suit Up here for 2 different reasons. Scar Mother is a really good late game card for us. And second, the other 2 choices don't look that appealing to me. Even though Elixir of Iron is technically not that great of a card for us, it still helps out with Vladimir and all of the cards that Vladimir is synergizing with. So stuff like Crimson Awakener, Elixir of Iron is actually a really good synergy pick. Okay, so now these synergy picks actually get really, really, really interesting because of how the deck... Like, all the synergy picks are always working together, or always trying to work together. So I end up picking Suit Up, but there is a chance... But I could actually potentially go Battle Scars and further that plan. But I think I choose Suit Up for the late game and Avaros and Hearthguard because like it allows me to have all my units survive. I might be considering Battle Scars here, but Suit Up is really good in comparison. And I now start thinking about, oh, let me think about Zed, because Zed could actually be a really good thing. But Avaros and Hearthguard works really well with Zed. Just a really good pickup anyway. And Alpha Wild Claw is just really good because of how overly statted it is. I actually pick up Battle Scars for 2 different reasons. Ancient Yeti is a pretty good, fairly powerful card, but I actually think about, oh wait, what if Teferian actually gets Avaros and Hearthguard, and I play Teferian? Do I draw a card just because of her? Or do I actually not draw a card because of her? But it's one of those cards that I actually think is really, really, really good. And I actually have... My deck is designed to have a lot of really healthy, powerful cards that will overpower my opponent with just stats alone. So, Teferian Assessor is just a really good draw card for me. And it's just a really good draw engine, so I'll probably be picking up Teferian later on in this expedition mode. More Teferians will actually... Sorry, more Trifarians Assessors will actually just be really good for my deck. Yeah, not that much else needs to get going. I spend too much time thinking about this. I remember this decision a little bit more because I was like, oh, actually, this is a really good thing for me. And I actually completely forget about the Trapper. I think I picked this one quickly. I think I pick up Starlit Seer and Whirling Death because the other 2 picks, like this pick Scar Mother could actually be really, really good, but I end up picking Starlight Seer and Whirling Death because like Starlight Seer doesn't really do that much, but Whirling Death does a lot. And this one is kind of one of the choices where you can actually take Enlightenment, but I would prefer not to for 2 different reasons. My deck's already getting AoE'd as it is, and Battering Ram is really, really terrifying. And the card that's with it is also not synergistic with my deck. So I'm already dumpstering on something, and I'm hurting it even more. So I actually end up picking Battle Scars because it's a 6-drop that gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger the later the game goes. and eventually becomes a unstoppable battering ram. Brom survives one attack from this. And now the final phase, the trade pick. So I've actually got two different choices here, which is the top choice and the bottom choice. The top choice is good because Shadow Fiend doesn't really do much. But the bottom pick is also a different choice. I can technically choose either one. Avaros and Trapper isn't really that great to switch out because Yusari is not really that great of a... I think it's a 4-3 with Elusive and Challenger, but I don't see that as a great card. So I pick up Kindly Tap... I swap out Kindly Tap and Keep with Take Heart for the purpose that Vladimir is going to do really well with it. Crimson Awakener can actually do it with practically any card in the game. And it's just really, really, really good to have Take Heart in the deck with many different cards. And I actually explain, Take Heart will be stupid with Zed because of how Zed works. I say Crimson Awakener, if he does one damage, he'll be a 6/4 with Quick Attack, and the Living Shadow that he spawns with 6/4 with Quick Attack. And that's ultimately what convinces me to take Heart over swapping out Shadow Fiend with that other card. And that'll do for this episode. I'll do another episode where I actually go through this expedition run, and I'll explain how to quickly think of a game plan on what your opponent needs, on what your opponent could potentially do, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time on this expedition run. And if you do actually want me to explain my way through this expedition run again, because I have a very good feeling that a lot of people are going to be very confused about this. So I'll see you guys next time. See ya.